Are you a dentist looking to build wealth, maybe create passive income, and be able to eventually step away from the chair? Are there things that you feel like you should or could be doing, but you just don't know where to start? Hi, I'm Jonathan Moffat, a wealth strategist who's built and sold an 8-practice DSO. Now, I help dentists align their practice success with their personal financial freedom. Each week on this podcast, you'll discover strategies to boost your practice profitability, multiply your wealth, and transform your dental career into the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. This is Dental Wealth Multiplier. Hey, this is Jonathan Moffat, and I have with me a special guest, Mr. Brian Colao. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thanks, Jonathan. Really happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Of course. So again, I'm going to make a big assumption, which is that, you're one of the biggest names in the DSO space. So I got to believe almost everyone should know or does know who you are. You and I were first introduced in 2016 when we engaged Dykema, my partner and I, to do our DSO documents for our group out of Southern California, and have enjoyed attending your great Dykema DSO event. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well, and certainly look to you as one of our industry's leading experts. So appreciate you being on here.
No, thank you. Thank you very much again, Jonathan. And, for those that don't know, this is now my 30th year doing it. I'm starting to feel old and get depressed, but this is year 30 for me here.
Nice. Well seasoned, well experienced, which I know a lot of our clients, we've referred to your firm, use your firm. They certainly get that experience from you and your team and that expertise. And I think there's something to be said about having a team. We talk to clients all the time, or when I'm speaking, like, you want to have a team. If you're going to go into this space, you have to have a team that knows what they're doing. They're experienced. They've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And so you've been doing this for 30 years. When you say this, you mean practicing law or specifically like in the dental space?
In the dental space, well, both actually, because, I was at the firm literally 2 weeks when my first dental client showed up. So yeah, 30 years for both, 30 years for doing dental stuff before there were even DSOs, and then at the inception of the very first DSOs, all the way to where we are now.
Where do you spend most of your time these days, or in your team? Do you spend a lot of your time on kind of the beginning phases where you're like getting DSOs set up, or do you spend more of your time kind of on helping groups exit? Like where is Dykema? Where is your team specifically spending a lot of that time and energy?
Well, on everything. And, Jonathin, you were there, somewhat at the beginning, when we started our industry leading DSO group. And, I've been doing this 30 years. We've had our Dykema DSO industry group for about 15 years, and it's meant to be all things dental. We have 72 professionals I'm responsible for. I say I'm like I love it when you use the term director, more like ringmaster of the circus is what it feels like a lot of the time. But my official title is director of the group, I suppose. But we'll do startup DSOs, doctor-owned DSOs, folks that want to, maybe they're starting with 1 or 2 offices. And yes, people listening, you can have a 1-office DSO. Happens all the time, when you start that way and then grow to something else. We'll do some of the largest DSOs in America that have thousands of offices. We represent them and everything in between. We average several hundred, DSO dental transactions a year. And, any manner of regulatory issue, any manner of litigation, credit facilities, OSHA, HIPAA, tax issues, any possible thing that can come up, my group does. Myself now, as director, I focus on some of the more complicated things and some of the real, difficult problems. And in the challenging economic conditions we've had of the last 2 years, we've had some real challenging things come up. And I spend a lot of my time, doing that, and a lot of my time advising companies on the business of dentistry. That's sort of myself personally. But our team, to answer your question, does absolutely all things dental, anything small or big that, affects a DSO or group practice.
Awesome. Yeah, great resource. So let's just kind of start with kind of progress through here as we go and start kind of at the beginning. If you're listening to this, there's a doctor listening to this and dentist, and they're like, I want to start a single location DSO or a multi-location DSO. What would be 1 or 2 things that you would absolutely advise them? Like, if you're going to start down this path, you must do this and this.
Yeah, well, the first thing, and this may sound obvious, but I'm dead serious when I say this. Like, I'm not being silly at all. You have to understand the business of dentistry before you do this. And I've been teaching at law schools not law schools, dental schools. I'm sorry. I have done some law school stuff, but I've actually been teaching at dental schools the last couple years on the business of dentistry and putting on courses. And I'm headed to, Cleveland and Denver to do some of that now this next week. But what I tell everybody, your first question in dental school, that's why I'm not being obvious here. Like I say to the students, how many classes have you taken on how to negotiate with your landlord? It's like 0. How many classes have you taken on how to negotiate with the big, like Henry Schein, Patterson, the big distributors on your supplies and equipment? 0. How many, courses have you taken on human resources, how to hire, fire, review employees and follow the labor regulations? 0. And you go down the list, how many courses have you taken on site selection and landlord? And it's always 0. So the first thing I would say, whether you're a dentist or a non-dentist, if you're going to do this, you have to understand the business of dentistry. The dental schools right now, some of them are asking me to come in and give some teaching on the business of dentistry, but mostly the dental schools, do a good job of teaching dentists how to be world-class clinicians, but almost nothing in terms of how to, to operate the business of dentistry. So for that reason, if you are going to open up a single practice, a group practice, small organization, you have to understand the business of dentistry, or I feel like you're going to struggle. For a time, Jonathan, things were going so well in the market that even if you were, a below average business person, but you opened up a dental office, you would do absolutely terrific. But in this marketplace with, interest rates being at an all-time, like say 30-year high, inflation being at a 30-year high, the cost of labor being at a 30-year high, the shortage of both clinical and non-clinical staff, if you don't fundamentally understand the business of dentistry, you're going to struggle. So whether you're a dentist or non-dentist, you have to fundamentally understand the business of dentistry if you're going to set out to open up, whether it's one practice or multi-site or whatever you're going to do.
Well, I just saw that the rapper Rick Ross just opened up a dental practice in Miami. So
I hope he's, I'm not, super up to speed on all his music, but let me just say this. It doesn't seem like he's a dentist or his background is in the dental field. So I would say, I hope he's got the right folks on his team because otherwise he's going to have some problems, I think.
Yeah. So understanding the business, one, what would you say is another, just, you got to make sure you do this kind of that second.
If you're doing a DSO, you got to make sure you're properly structured from a legal standpoint, from a structural, and that your agreements are regulatory compliant. If you're doing a DSO, if you're doing a dental practice, I feel like you've got to understand the fundamental business of dentistry and you got to pick the right partners and have the right culture, and you got to right from the start, figure out what your culture is going to be and make sure everybody follows that culture. If you're a DSO, you got to do all these things. Plus, you got to make sure that your legal structure is correct, because that's probably the biggest mistake I see in DSOs is people set it up and they're moving 1,000,000 miles a minute and they're moving really, really fast. And they don't have time necessarily to say, hey, let's get the right lawyer. Maybe they get a lawyer like, this lawyer's at my country club and he helped me, years ago with a landlord dispute or something. So let's let this guy do this, or this was the guy that, helped me buy a piece of property. So let's have this person do it. And, they can sort of stumble through it and just about, maybe get it done, but they don't know what they don't know. And years later, issues come up and you find out you're not structured the right way or your agreements are not regulatory compliant. And whatever it would have cost, Jonathan, on the front end to fix this, multiply times 10 or 15, and that's what you'll pay after you got 10 offices or 8 offices, and suddenly a regulator's there or the dental board's coming after you or an associate dentist is suing you and it wasn't documented correctly. You will pay 10 or 15 times whatever you would have paid to get it right, in the first instance.
For sure. And I think if you take nothing away from this conversation, it is you have to work with a team of experts who have been doing this, who have seen it, they've been there, they've helped. I can't imagine there's a scenario that you or your team hasn't advised a doctor through. And the other thing is, again, it's that old adage, you get what you pay for, right? They're trying to save money up front by hiring an inexpensive attorney, or your brother-in-law's an attorney or whatever that can do the documents. To your point, it's like, that's great until until the crap hits the fan. And then you're going to be wishing you would have paid, someone to do it right. Now you
It's
mentioned
the same with what you do, Jonathan, right? You've operated a DSO in your past, and whether you knew it, I never, quizzed you way back in those days, but whether you understood the business of dentistry way back at the beginning, I promise you, by the time you were through, you thoroughly understood every aspect of it. So you're like so if somebody wants to get Jonathan on their team, that's what you need. Somebody that's sat in the shoes, understands the business of dentistry. There's a lot of folks doing what you do, Jonathan, that have never really operated in the dental industry.
Yeah.
They're just sending out emails. Hey, anybody interested in this one? And they don't understand what their clients are going through. And I think that's the point you're making with me. I've seen every scenario in the last 30 years. I mean, every now and then a new one comes up, but I've seen just about everything that could possibly come up. So when it happens, I can rely on that experience and say, yeah, I've seen that dozens of times. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what doesn't work. Here's what works. Here's what's maybe in the middle. And we can make informed decisions as to how to proceed. But if you're using the attorney from your country club that's never done a dental deal, you don't know what they don't know. And they're not even asking the right questions.
Right. And then when you do need them because something went wrong, you're good luck finding them. Right?
Well, even if you do, what are they going to do? Like, they never understood it to begin with. I mean, I'm sure they'll take your call, but you're going to tell them what happened, and they're going to be like, "Oh, well, I don't know about that," So,
yeah. Well, now you mentioned in your response there, you mentioned the P word, partnership, and this is something that I think comes up a lot. Partnerships can be really tricky and I was just having a conversation with someone earlier today about this. I was like, we had a client looking at a partnership. I'm like, better have a good attorney that's got a really good partnership agreement. And we tell clients all the time when they're going through, it's like, yeah, you have these buy-sell, all these agreements. In my opinion, the most important agreement is that operating agreement or partnership agreement. It says this is how the partnership's going to operate.
Well, the most important thing, okay? I mean, obviously we can talk about the legal stuff. And yes, you're absolutely right, Jonathan. You have to have the right terms in there, and you need to have somebody that knows what they're doing to make sure you're protected, and things are not just that you're protected, but that things are properly documented so there's no misunderstanding later. All of that is critical. But more critical than that is that you pick the right partner, because there's no legal documents can protect you, even if they're the greatest documents on earth, from all the heartache and headache of if you pick the wrong business partner. You may say, hey, this contract protects me and I'm going to win. But if the person is just absolute hell on earth, you're going to go through, even if you win, in court or whatever you end up doing under your documents, it's going to be a miserable experience. So what I tell people in the first instance is pick the right human being, like the right partner to go in the business with. And then, of course, you need to document everything appropriately and get the right team to help you. But, there's only so much somebody like you or I can do if you pick just the worst partner on earth. I mean, I'll get you out of it eventually, but I can't save you from all the misery you're probably going to have to go through as if you pick a high quality human being or somebody that's trustworthy. So that's the first thing I would say, just in my 30th year of seeing it. The first one's not really legal advice. It's like human advice, but take the time to make sure you've got the right partner. And then the second part is legal advice. Make sure it's properly documented and you're protected.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the biggest piece of feedback I give when I'm approached with partnership is just take your time. There's no reason to rush into a partnership, right? If you're married, more than likely you didn't rush into a marriage. It's the similar thing. Make sure you we talk to makes you see this doctor, whether it's an associate or a junior partner, whatever, see them and just don't rush into it. See how they react in different scenarios. I've had associates tell clients before, when we ask, what are you looking forward to do, being a partner, being an owner? They're like, oh, then everyone will treat me like the boss and I can fire people. It's like, red flag, right? Like maybe this isn't the right person, but you don't see those responses or those people, how they are in that scenario if you are going to rush into it. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, visionaries, quick starts, whatever you want to call them, a lot of times we tend to fit in the same kind of box. We tend to rush into stuff really quick. Oh, this is so exciting. This is going to be a great opportunity. And boom, now you're in a partnership with legal documents that with the person, to your point, maybe isn't the right person. So I love what you said, pick the right person. And I think too, like you said too, to take time, don't rush into it. Once you have decided, again, work with a team that's been around the block that can advise you through that. So I love that.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are business marriages, and believe
Right.
me, business divorces are just as bad as any like regular, marital divorce you'll ever see. So what I say is, look, the best case scenario is, well, is you. Oh, let me go to the worst. The worst case scenario is you pick the wrong partner and you got the wrong documents.
Yeah.
God help you if you're in that situation. The next scenario is you pick the wrong partner, but you got the right documents. Okay. You'll get out of it, but there's going to be a lot of heartache that just can't be avoided. The best scenario and the one you want to be in is you pick the right partner and you got the right documents. Then, it should be mostly a smooth experience for you.
Awesome. So we'll kind of move to kind of that middle phase. You've got your DSO, it's established, you've got all the documents in place, and you want to grow. What are you seeing right now kind of in our industry for growth? What are some opportunities maybe that you're seeing? And maybe what's a challenge that you're seeing when it comes to growing your group or your DSO?
Well, historically, the principal way of growing a DSO, and when we say growth, it means increasing your EBITDA. That's what it means. It doesn't necessarily mean tacking on offices. If you tack on offices and you're reducing your EBITDA or they're losing money, sometimes the best thing to do is to close the office down. So I want to make sure when I say growth, everybody understands what I mean. I mean, grow your EBITDA. So the principal way to grow your EBITDA, at least in this industry, has been through M&A activity, buying things or opening up de novos. Unfortunately, since about the second quarter of 2022, with the interest rates, going up to the highest they've been, in inflation and the cost of money going up and the cost of goods and labor shortages and cost of labor being high, it's been very challenging to do M&A activity. And I'm not saying, I know your clients they're still doing deals, but it's just not nearly at the explosive volume it was in 2017, 18, 19, the end of 020 after COVID. All of 21 was explosive. It's just not occurring at that same rate and won't until the interest rates go down. So what people are doing now is they're doing same store growth. They're focusing on, how to lower their expenses and how to increase their production at their existing locations. And there's all kinds of innovative technologies that will help you do that. Artificial intelligence, the single biggest innovation in the history of the dental industry, allows you to ethically do more cases. You don't want to do them unethically, but it allows you to ethically do more cases because AI diagnoses more things than human beings could ever before. A lot of membership plans, discount plans, patient finance plans, a lot of innovative products out there, some that'll let you almost regenerate enamel on watch spots. There's things that will help you. You can integrate specialty into your office. Like so many things you can do to increase the production, basically increase the revenue, thereby increase the EBITDA, thereby increase the enterprise value of your organization without having to spend capital on M&A.
Now, if you are going to go acquire or expand through acquisition, is there a model that you are seeing out there that you like more than others? Meaning like the model on how to structure that compensation or the deal or the purchase. Is there a model that you like right now?
I really like joint venture models. I really do. They were, like I said, I've been here 30 years. We did joint ventures 20 years ago, 15 years ago, but there's a lot of people, as you know, Jonathan, that are just entering our industry. And it's funny how they're all experts. They just showed up and now they're experts. I know you've seen this, but a lot of those folks are, I always laugh. They're like, we've got, these new innovative joint ventures. That's what we're doing. It's like, no, we've had joint ventures since really 15, 20 years ago. It's just when the market was booming, people didn't need to do joint ventures. They just wanted to do, purchases of the entire organization. But now joint ventures are coming back. The advantages of joint ventures are you don't have to deploy all your capital because you're going into partnership with somebody else. The other advantages is your partner has skin in the game. Him or her has skin in the game. They're invested in what you're doing. So, they're probably going to behave themselves and work with you because they've got skin in the game. I like that model. And I'm seeing it make a big comeback, kind of to do these joint ventures. For a while, we were doing lots of them. Then we weren't doing hardly any of them. Now we're doing lots of them again.
Yeah. And again, I think part of it's probably you get in, you try it. Oh, this isn't working. I remember having a conversation with a CEO of a mid-sized DSO, and they were doing 100% buyouts. And he's like, man, it's like these doctors have this equity, even though we bought 100%, they have equity in the deal. He's like, it's like it's like, it's not real to them. right? It's not tangible versus, to your point, which I agree with you. And that's what we're seeing work really well too, are these joint ventures. And it's where it's like, no, they still own a percentage of the practice still in their name. It feels more like they have ownership as opposed to before it was like, well, I sold 100% of my practice. Doesn't feel like I have any ownership, even though, yeah, I have this equity, these shares that are allotted to me. There's not a tangible feel for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in real time. I'm saying with the joint venture. With the rollover, it doesn't really happen in real time. There's
Right.
some mythical second equity event that's going to happen. And look, for a
That
while,
may or may not happen, right?
yeah, but for a while, right. I mean, that was always the deal. Like, there's no 100% guarantee, but for a while, it was happening like clock. Like, there's no way this can't happen. Nobody loses. Everybody gets a prize at the carnival. And that was the heyday of this thing from 2016, 17, 18, 19, last, quarter of 2021. I mean, everything was turning and it's a cycle. It's just a boom and bust cycle. The economy's been doing this for hundreds of years, or a couple hundred years since we've been America here. But, now we're in a bust cycle because of inflation and because of interest rates and because of cost of labor and goods and inflation and everything else. We're in a bust cycle. So the equity events are not occurring with the same frequency or as quickly as they occurred before. So there are a lot of dentists that are frustrated out there. If they're listening, look, your deal's going to happen. Okay. I talk to people all day long. I mean, it's going to happen. Your partner, maybe you're frustrated with your private equity sponsor or your investor, but they're aligned with you. They only get paid when you get paid. So, have a little more patience. But getting back to our point, you don't have to worry about that in a joint venture because usually cash is being distributed in real time, quarterly or bi-quarterly, yearly or something. So in real time, the partners are seeing it happen. If good things are happening, they're getting paid in real time. If maybe they had a down month, they're noticing that, but they have an incentive and they know if they jump in there and work hard and the revenue goes up, they're going to be rewarded in the next quarter. It's not like they're going to have to wait years down the line. So the joint ventures, I think, they're here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future with these economic conditions.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like you said, it's kind of the pendulum seems to be swinging back that way.
And I like everybody to have skin in the game. I don't like a situation where somebody gets paid 100% and they're asked to stay on and now they're golfing, half the time. They never went golfing on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And now they went on Friday, at Friday at 3:00 they left. Now they're doing it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That doesn't work. And maybe it's not ideal either if, they're going to be asked to wait years and years and hope for something good to happen. Something that's a nice mix that I'm seeing is an opportunity to participate in real time.
Yeah. Well, hey, when you don't have to worry about making payroll on Monday, you can go golfing on Friday, right?
Well, some people learned that lesson the hard way in our industry. I mean, Warren Buffett has been saying it for years that people have to have skin in the game. If you don't give people skin in the game, you're not going to get optimum performance. I mean, Warren Buffett said it 10, 20 years ago, way before any of this, stuff, came up. But some folks during the biggest boom cycle, I would say, end of 2021 in our industry, went in and they did some deals where they wanted to add the EBITDA. They wanted to buy the offices and they were willing even to buy people out virtually at 100% with no rollover, no skin in the game. And I think some people learned the hard way. What they got was reduced performance because the incentives in large part went away with some sellers.
Yeah. So what would you advise someone who's looking at or considering in the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months, partnering with either a DSO or private equity with their group? What would be any advice?
You know what I'm going to say, because I just said it and I'll say it again. Pick the right partner. That's like number one of all of this. Again, not legal advice per se, but if you want to just talk to somebody that's been here 30 years in this industry and seen thousands of deals, pick the right partner. And I'll tell you what that means. I mean, I know it's easy for me just to say, pick the right partner. I'll tell you a little bit what that means. Any PE fund is going to require accountability. Now that you have a partner, if you used to take that private jet to Vegas, once a month and it cost 30 grand round trip, but it was a fun thing that everybody did and you liked it, that's probably not going to fly when you have a partner. Okay. Yeah. And if your expectation is, I want to go to Vegas whenever and I want to charge it back to the practice. And by the way, that's okay. If you have your own group and you're the sole owner, or you have a partner and the two of you agree on everything and you want to go to Vegas and you want to take money from the dental practice and put it on black and stick it in slot machines, as long as you and your partners agree, that's perfectly fine. But when you get a partner, you have to understand things are going to change. And if your view is, even though I've sold this to my part, I've sold, this office, I'm going to go and take money and go to Vegas and do these things, you're asking for conflict. So the first thing you have to understand, no matter who you partner with, is there's going to be accountability and people are actually going to watch the numbers. And it's not just going to be, whatever you think in your soul judgment, whatever you feel is best. It's not going to be that way anymore. That's the first thing. The second thing is some people like micromanagement. Some people don't want any management. Some people say, if I'm hitting my numbers, I don't even want to know you're alive. Other people say, even if I'm hitting my numbers, the reason I brought you in is to provide advice and guidance. And I don't want you just to sit there and be quiet. I want you to actually add value. And I don't mean the value you added is you paid me money. I mean, add business value, like you're going to sit here and look at the business and give me advice and talk to me about things. You got to figure out who you are as a person. People ask me sometimes, Jonathan, that question, who should I partner with? And I say, that's like you just asked me who you should marry. I guess if I'd known you for 10 years or something, I might have an opinion on this. But if you walked up to me at a dental conference and said, who should I partner with? I would say, that's like asking me who you're going to marry. I guess I need to know, like, do you like micromanagement? Do you not want micromanagement? What type of, style of management is going to work for you? How often do you want to be on the phone with people? How often do you want to be accountable for things? And different partners will do it differently. Like I said, if you're miserably missing your numbers, you're going to have to answer to everybody. But some people are willing to be hands off if numbers are hit. Some people are going to be hands on no matter what happens. What is the track record of that particular buyer in the dental industry? What's their general track record? I mean, if their general track record is horrible, maybe that ought to tell you something. But sometimes I've seen it where the general track record is great, but they've never done a dental investment before. And I've seen people on their very first dental investment hit a home run. But you got to do your diligence and you got to investigate. You got to look into that situation. You also want to say, what is their time horizon? A family fund that buys you might hold you for 10 years or more. And some people say, I like that, because we're building a business together. Like, they're going to hang out for 10 years with me and we're really going to grow this. Other funds might say, look, 3 to 5 years and we have to leave. No offense. That's what our mandate is to our investors. We have to exit this in 3 to 5 years. So the decisions we make are going to have a 3 to 5 year time horizon. So if you ask us to invest in something that might be a good deal 10 years from now, we probably can't do it because that's beyond our horizon. When is, what does the rollover sort of look like for you? Do you want 20% rollover, 30%, 40% rollover? Most deals in this particular economy are going to require a rollover. I mean, no one really right now, given the challenging conditions that I know of, Jonathan, too much is just going to give you 100% and just let you leave with no strings attached. So, but you can negotiate the strings. Is it 20% rollover, 30, 40%? How long do you have to work? If you're young, you're probably going to have to find, when I say young, doesn't mean 25, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years old, you're going to sign a 5-year employment contract. If you're 70, maybe you're going to sign, maybe they'll give you a 1 or 2 year, employment contract or something. But these are all things that you have to work out when you're picking your partner. And by the way, it's hard. I know you would say this, Jonathan, right? If I asked you, it's got to be hard. If somebody reported to you, nope, I just picked my partner in 5 minutes. Hey, draw up the papers. Let's go. You're going to look at them like, whoa, hold up here.
Some red flag
about this. It's got to be just like you said earlier, I suppose there are those people in Vegas that get married in 24 hours and they run down there. But if you and I looked at the statistics of how many of those marriages work out, it's not super high. But the people that actually get to know their partner, take the time, go through have the hard discussions. Like, how many kids do you want to have? Are you willing to stay at home, or do you going to insist on having a career and working, and what both, partners? And they go through all that analysis, and it might be difficult. They might get into some arguments even before they're married along the way, sort of figuring out if this is going to fit. But those that go through that and ask the hard questions and come through that and say, yes, after all of this, I want to be with this partner. Those are the ones that most likely, have the highest chance of working out. And it's the same thing here. if you get an unsolicited LOI and you sign the first thing somebody puts in front of you, or you meet the first thing, or somebody's paying you a lot of money, this is what happens a lot. They just like the money. They don't know anything about the partner, but the money is higher than the others. And they take that. What I say sometimes is there's a reason. There's a reason that offer is higher than the other offers. Yep. So this should be hard. When you're selling, it should be hard. You should be saying, oh my God, this is hard. I'm taking these meetings. I'm asking these questions. Some of it's difficult. I got to ask Jonathan some questions. I'm processing this. I need an advisor to help me, or I got to bounce this off a friend. This is difficult for me. It should be, because you're going to be stuck with that partner for years to come. This isn't like selling, a McDonald's franchise where you sell it, maybe for a month, you help out and you're gone, and then they're on their own. All of the buyers in the marketplace are going to ask you to stay 3, 4, 5 years. Again, unless you're 70 or something, maybe you're going to get less money, but maybe they'll work out something for you if you're 70 years old. But if you're, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60, you're going to have to stay 3 to 5 years, and you're going to be stuck with this partner. And I've just seen some people that, there's nothing more miserable than bringing on a partner that's completely the wrong partner for you. And unfortunately, I see that a few times a year in your workplace, your practice that you built from the ground up, that used to be a source of joy and pride for you, now becomes a place, you don't even want to get up and go to work in the morning. And I don't ever want to see, somebody in that situation. So that's why you got to pick the right partner.
No, I love what you said about this should be hard. Man, it's like, I love how you said that. It's so true. And again, I think it's so easy to get distracted by, like you said, the big dollars, the big numbers, the big, but you said something that I see all the time, which is like, if they're offering your more money or higher than what maybe other groups are, there's probably a reason for that. Right. And you have to, but again, we'll go back to what we said at the beginning. This is why you work with a team of experienced people. I mean, you just ripped off 30 years worth of experience, right? And working with an attorney that can negotiate both on your behalf and also tell you and set realistic expectations. I mean, that's another big thing. I think we were talking to a group the other day, and the owners didn't have realistic expectations. And so part of having a good advisor, someone like you, Brian, and your team is to set those realistic expectations, right? Hey, I want to sell for a 10x multiple, which I know you're laughing because you're like, yeah, good luck, right? But I also want to work back for a year. You're like, yeah, you and everyone else, right? And so having someone set those expectations and be honest and real and transparent with you, I think is also really important to have, which I know obviously you guys bring a lot of that to your clients.
I mean, it's critical. Jonathan, I don't know if you're a hockey fan at all, or you follow hockey, or anybody watching this knows anything about hockey, but they have something called a line change in hockey when, you got to get 3 more people on there. And sometimes there's a term, I got caught in a line change. They scored a goal because we were changing lines and we weren't organized, and they snuck down there and scored a goal. This industry a little bit got caught in a line change, okay? Because almost every other time, last, say, 50, 60 years, when there's been inflation and things, it ticked up slowly, and people saw it coming, and people said, oh, this, January's, and this is not so good. And then they check in June. Yeah, it's trending up. It's not the end of the world, but and then the end of the year, they're like, yeah, this is becoming a little bit of a thing here, and then the next year. So it ends up being like 2 years before you're in a really bad predicament. You've watched it kind of tick up, and people have tried to, put countermeasures in place and do things. The way this thing went down, by almost the Ukraine war happened, and then a lot of the money that had flooded the marketplace in the wake of COVID that was unnecessary, it all kind of hit at the same time. And next thing they knew, within 3 months, we were at 30-year high inflation and 30-year high interest rates. So a little bit, the industry got caught in a line change. And what I mean by that is, you were saying 10 multiples, it wouldn't have been out of line in January of 2022 or February of 2022 to say a 10 multiple. And you'd be like, yeah, you might get that. And then by May or June, it was like a laughing thing. It was like nothing would ever happen. So, I don't fault some people for initially having those opinions, because everybody got sort of surprised. But it is critical right now in this marketplace that you get the right advisor that's going to tell you the truth. And what that means is you come in and you demand 10. And they're going to say, I understand that's how you feel, but if you really feel like 10, then you shouldn't sell right now, because you're not going to get it in this marketplace. You're going to get 6 or 7 or, whatever the case may be based on that individual organization. But people need to tell the truth in this particular marketplace because there's a lot of misconceptions out there with sellers. And I don't blame them because what they're thinking was the case for a long time. It's not like they're crazy. That was the way it was, but it changed very, very quickly. And that's not where we are right now.
Right. So, Brian, we've covered a lot of topics here, and I'm sure, I know I have a ton more questions, but let's go to your upcoming Dykema DSO conference, because I know that's going to be a place where, if you're listening to this, the conference is in August 6th through the 8th, right, at the Gaylord Hotel in Denver, Colorado. Or having it there again, right? That's what I think.
Yeah. We have a 5-year contract with them, and now we've got 4 years left, I think. So yes, absolutely.
It's a great venue. I've been many, many times. I think I was telling you, I think I've been almost every year. It's only been 1 or 2 years I think I've missed. It's a great conference. So if you want to come learn from literally some of the industry's leading experts on all of these topics, plus, where are we headed? What's the future look like? Hey, I'm stuck in this. I'm stuck. I sold my practice to a DSO and I'm waiting for them to recap. And I know Brian said to be patient, but how much longer do I need patient? Like, all these questions that people are going to have. That your conference is, I think, in my opinion, and I know a lot of others, has really taken the place as the leading conference in our industry to be at. Tell us a little bit about what someone could expect if they sign up and come and walk away with.
Yeah, we're in our 12th year of doing it, and we learned. I mean, look, our number one event wasn't the best ever, but we're in our 12th year of doing it. It's the largest event in the history of the DSO industry. We keep breaking our own record. Like, we set the record for the largest event in 21, broke it in 22, broke it in 23, broke it in 24. And at least based on what it looks like, more people are signed up now than have ever been at this juncture before. So it looks like we're going to break it again. What the principles we go by is best content, best networking, most fun. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to get almost 2,100 people there. So anybody from all across the industry you want to talk about. You want to talk about, brokers and people that can help you sell your office. You want to talk about consultants that can help you, analyze where your practice is and help improve, your practice and, look at key performance indicators and things like that. They're going to be there. Buyers, every buyer in the industry just about is going to be there. Other people in your situation, like let's say you're in California where Jonathan is and you had 7 or 8 offices and, you're struggling with some things and you're like, gosh, I just wish I know I can hire a consultant, but I wish I could talk to like another owner that has 8 offices that's like going through what I'm doing. You might come and you'll see several dozen people that have 8 offices. Or if you have 15 offices, you'll see several dozen people that have 15 offices. And sometimes people report to me, that's the most valuable thing. I met Jonathan over there, and just like me, he's got 10 offices. His are in Florida, mine are in California, but he's going through the same trouble I am and everything I said. And he's actually solved some of the problems that I have. And he told me practically how to do it, or he gave me, the people that he's used to help him with some things. So I just get feedback like that. So you'll see peers, whatever you are, whether you're 1 office, 3 offices, 10, 15, 100 offices, you'll find peers there that you can sit down with and talk to. And, just about anything, any vendor. And I know sometimes people say, the vendor. No. We bring the best vendors in the industry, the ones that are increasing same-store growth that actually can add value. Now, not every vendor is going to work for everybody. So, you may have some that, you're not interested in, but the ones we bring are the most innovative ones in the industry. And there'll be like 112 of them. And people do enjoy walking down the main promenade and learning about some of the new innovative technologies and seeing if there are some solutions in there that can help them increase their same-store growth. So just about anything that's going on in DSO or dental industry is going to be represented there. Like we said, lenders, accountants, everybody needs a credit facility. You want to do a check on your current credit facility and see if you can improve it, or if you're in good shape where you are, you can do that. You want to ask some questions about your accounting. Maybe you're trying to move from cash to accrual, or maybe you wonder if you should, or you're wondering if your accountant really knows how to calculate your EBITDA. Maybe you don't even know what EBITDA is, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. It's the gold standard for valuing organizations, but maybe I'm saying this and you're like, I got no clue what that is. Come there and you can learn about that. And we'll teach you everything you need to know to maximize the value of your organization. We'll give you the best information available for how to pick the right partners, and we'll expose you to everything that's out there. And you don't have some, you don't have to talk to certain things if you don't want to, but everything that's out there will be there. And what I always say on the networking thing, Jonathan, we can make more introductions. And you've seen this yourself because you've been in the room at one of our receptions or one of our events at Dykema. Then if I tried to introduce you to all those people just like regular, it might take 6 months to do it. But in that room, I can walk you around in 15 minutes and you could meet almost everybody.
Yeah. It's the number one event we recommend our clients go to, certainly that are in the space and want to learn more and network. And it's great. So if someone wants to find out, Brian, where can they go to learn, like register and maybe see more about information about that event?
Yeah, DykemadSO.com is where you go. And if it's not, the spelling is Dykema, Dykema, and then DSO.com. Really simple. You can register on that website. I think, Jonathan, you're going to have a discount code here too to help people. Or if you don't, we're going to give you one because I want to make sure you have one. And, I think what we'll do is make sure any of your clients or listeners or people that want to go, have a discount code. I love first-time attendees. I really, really do. And I can't encourage people enough to give it a shot. Once people go, like the first time, they're there almost year after year after year. So if you're like on the fence or even you never heard of it, you're sitting there and you're like, wow, why I didn't know about this. Come give us a shot one time. And I'm pretty sure you'll come back.
Yeah. Go for the drone show, if nothing else, right?
We do. We have a $100,000 drone show. John McEnroe is going to be our keynote speaker. I mean, I don't want to lead with that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to
the dental stuff's amazing. I go to a lot of conferences a lot. And like, I'm sure like you, and it's like Dykema is always on that like can't miss list. So we'll have, not only that, thanks for giving the link. We'll have the link in the description to register for that event. Again, I can't encourage you guys enough. If you're listening to this, if anything Brian's talked about is like, man, that's really interesting, or you have more questions, which I know you do, please go. You will not be sorry if you go to that event. It is packed with value. Great people, great speakers. And lastly, Brian, if someone just wants to get a hold of you or your firm, because they're like, hey, I'm listening to this and now I'm actually thinking, do I even have the right legal documents? Or I don't know that I have the right people on my team. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Or
same place. I mean, I try to make it as easy as I can. If you go to DykemadDSO.com, you can register for the conference. We talked about that, but you can also look at me and our entire team, and all our contact information is there. And you can send me an email, call me, whatever you want to do. It's all there.
Awesome. Well, again, I can speak from personal experience because you and your firm put all our documents together, and we still use those documents literally to this day that you guys created. So thank you, Brian, so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on here. I know you're extremely busy, but your advice is invaluable. Again, it's one of these things where it's just reps. You see so many different situations, scenarios. It's just the experience that you bring and that you and your team have it's invaluable to someone and to an organization. So I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your expertise and insight with myself and the listeners.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. Been a pleasure. And I never get tired of talking about DSOs in this wonderful industry we're in. So thank you for the opportunity to do so.
Awesome. We are in a wonderful industry, so I appreciate that. All right. Thanks, Brian. Thanks everyone for listening. All the show notes and links will be in the show description below. And if you have any questions or anything we didn't address or you want us to address next time, let us know. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Dental Wealth Multiplier. To make sure you don't miss an episode, go ahead and click the subscribe button. You can also visit us at dentalwealthmultiplier.com to get access to the links or materials mentioned in today's podcast. You can also see other episodes and get access to the most recent reports, tools, and information to continue your wealth building journey.